citizens by the police. Now, to discuss this, would be joined virtually by Patriot Desmond Fowobi O, who joins us from Lagos. Hello, Patriot Desmond. Can you hear us? Welcome to the program.
Good morning, gentlemen in the studio. Good morning, Bito. Good morning, Nigerians. I can hear you clear and loud, and I hope you can also hear me from the studio.
Good to have you join us. Looking at this amnesty report, it's not news, like I said, that issues of police brutality and loss of lives occur when there's mass gatherings, especially to press home a demand from the government in terms of accountability. Is it coming to you as a shock that 24 lives have been lost in the hashtag End Bad Governance protest? And do you think that there would be some case of justice in the acclamation for human rights?
It is a shocking revelation to me, considering the independent committee that was set up by then President Muhammadu Buhari after the NSAS Zaga. In the course of resolving the issues, in the course of interventions by the government, we saw a committee being set up to proffer solution to the issue of NSAS. And there was a report on the white paper that though a lot of lives, a lot of people were injured, but only 1 or 2 cases of death was recorded. So this revelation by Amnesty International is a shocking fact to a lot of people and to the Nigerian government. And I'm not sure the government has accepted this as an independent and a sovereign nation with different agencies, justice systems, and all that. I'm very sure the government will be moved to carry out some investigation and do some forensic to establish facts about this sudden revelation of over 24 lives being lost.
Now talking about Lagos, it's a good thing you're in Lagos this morning, and with the hopes that the government would investigate this issue. We saw the row between the SA to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who has now been suspended following a message he posted on X insinuating that there was some extrajudicial killing in those who were responsible for larceny during the NSAS protest. The back and forth was now drawn to the attention of the Lagos state governor, who suspended him, citing that there are no rules for extrajudicial killing. But with reports like this, does it worry you that there might have been some elements of truth in that rumor of extrajudicial killings following events like this?
Definitely, Bito. Why we try to be diplomatic when we approach this kind of issue, so that we do not cause unnecessary, fear in the society. We also need to tread with caution. We need to understand that in the course of such open confrontation by the Nigerian military, be some lives that will be affected. Now, the number of people that were affected, not even the SA can ascertain that. Not even any journalist on ground can ascertain that. And that is why a government must be transparent. A government must be sincere, so that the people can trust government of the country. What is expected of government, of the people, to do after such occurrence of that killings and confrontation by protesters and men of our military is to set up a committee, whether the independent committee or government-owned investigation committee. At the end of the day, it is the report from this committee that we can now question. As it is, whether it is the government that is not being sincere, or the committee that has been set up, or there are some people who are interested in causing unnecessary quagmire in Nigeria by this sudden report of over 24 lives being lost. I am not saying that lives were not lost. As a matter of fact, a lot of people were injured, and it will even pray that they lost their life, considering the level of injury that they incur from that process, and which is not good enough for a country like Nigeria, which is not good enough for the psyche of the people who want to contribute to the betterment of the country by going out there to express their dissatisfaction about a certain harm of the government. Bito asked me, were lives lost during NSAS protests? Yes, some lives were lost. But I cannot, on this seat, ascertain the number of lives that were lost. But then I will also advise the federal government to be sincere in dealing with this kind of issue, to further, reduces tension in the society and bring this issue to life.
Well, Patriot Desmond, when Amnesty International said that 24 lives were lost to police brutality or extrajudicial killings, if you remember very well, you were in the studio a number of times during the period that the protests were holding, and it was almost as if the protest fizzled out just as it was beginning. Here in Abuja, we had very little to no altercations on the streets due to the protest. In Lagos, it was the same across other states of the country, except in places like Kaduna where there was active violence. It was almost as if the protest just started. It was supposed to last for 10 days and then it fizzled out in just a few days. So if we are saying that 24 people were killed, were they killed by the police? Were they killed by other protesters? What exactly happened to them? Has any information been given out there with regards to this?
Beatles, Shijoke.
Yes.
I cannot, in all sincerity, just suppose that these killings were done by the police or by the military or by other confrontation that these protesters have with each other. I knew that some people said government hired thugs attacked innocent protesters. Was it true or false? I knew that there was confrontation between protesters, but I can't, in all sincerity, establish that these other protesters were hired by government. Number two, I knew that there was confrontation, but I do not know whether lives were lost in the process. Also, I knew that there was deployment of the military at Lekki to foster peace at the time that the protest is gaining strength and momentum. And there were sporadic shooting of innocent lives just to disperse and disband this group. But at the end of the day, it was recorded that some lives were lost. And immediately, there was an inquiry committee set up by President Buhari, and they reported that no lives were lost. After about 2 days, Lagos State government confirmed that about 2 lives were lost and many were injured. I do not know the process where this figure skyrocketed. Maybe the ones who were injured could not get adequate treatment and in the process lost their life. But the truth of the matter is that NSAS has left a very wrong impression on the manner and ways the federal government of Nigeria managed protesters. The same thing played out in the in the just concluded headband governance protest. In the headband governance protest in Abuja, some journalists were even arrested. Beyond that, some were incarcerated in prisons. It took the intervention of activist lawyer Femi Falana, Deji Adeyanju, and the likes to bail out some of these people. What I can only say is that the manner and ways in which we manage protest in the country is not professional enough, or it is not people-oriented enough. Government should understand that protesters are also part of governance, and they are part of the system. They are in the system, they are in the society to contribute. But the only fear I have is that the manner and ways in which we go about protests in the country is not organized, is not peaceful, and does not have leadership to control it. And this is what we should. So the government has some level of force. The protesters also have some force. And for us to have a free and a peaceful protest in the country, the government needs to up their game, and the organizers of this protest must also up their game. So far, so good. Protest has left a bad impression in the society and has led an injury, unforgettable injury in our hearts. But going forward, we must conduct ourselves peacefully as protesters, and government must be professional and people-oriented in managing protesters.
Now, let's move on to other issues as we continue to review the state of our nation. Another disturbing issue making the rounds is, despite the applause in some sections of the country with the keeping of the promise of the coming on board of the Patriot refinery, there's now a challenge with the supply in the downstream sector of our petroleum. Marketers are not too happy with the NNPCL, as it's yet to declare a price at which the products from the Patriot refinery will be lifted. And we've seen that Dangote had reduced his price by 20 naira. A lot of marketers are threatening to boycott this new product. What does this tell Nigerians going into the Yuletide? Cheaper pump price for PMS, or fuel scarcities owing to the marketers' boycotts?
Bito, I just want to say this, that whenever the issue of petroleum and our oil sector, the NNPC is raised, it usually comes to me with some level of emotions, and it touches me a lot. That is one sector that affects me a lot, because I've done a lot of research. I've spoken about NNPC, our oil sector, at different occasions. I've attended a lot of conferences, and yet we are not getting it right. Nigeria government have sold crude for over 50 years, and yet the government cannot account to the country, to the people, how they manage this sector. In the course of this, our refineries backed up because of lack of maintenance and gross corruption. In the last 12 years, over 20 trillion have been invested in maintenance of these refineries. I am happy with the news, but it is that comes with nostalgia. Nostalgia in the sense that I don't know whether I should be happy or I should be sad, because it took the country many years, more than 8 years, to bring our refineries back to life, and there is no template on ground. There has not been any paperwork that has been done that this is how much that we are going to be selling this fuel to the market, to the people. As at 2 days to 3 days ago, the news broke out that Port Harcourt refineries is now operational, and then it's going to be operating 60,000 barrels a day. That is about 3 million of liters of fuel. Now, I also saw footage of trailers going into that refinery to lift petrol to NNPC outlets across the country. The question is, how much is NNPC lifting this petrol to the market, to the retailers, to the NNPC retail outlets? How much are they selling? Those who are buying from NNPC today, how much are they buying petrol? Petrol is still sold for 1,050 naira from NNPC outlets. Despite the fact that this petrol was sourced, the crude was sourced from Nigeria, refined in Nigeria, distributed by NNPC truck, sold in NNPC retail outlets across the country. Yes, there is no significant changes. Where is the hope?
Patriot Desmond, in a nutshell,
that the president promised the Nigerian people? For me, this is not a representation of the renewed hope. There are some people within the system that are bastardizing, and the government has kept mute.
Patriot Desmond, in a nutshell, are you saying, in a nutshell, are you saying that despite the fact that Dangote Refinery has come into the picture, despite the fact that NNPC Limited has been able to, since 2015, finally brought back the Port Harcourt Refinery to life, that all of these things, all of these indices put together will not guarantee the price reduction in PMS in the country anytime soon? And even with the 20 naira deduction made by Dangote Refinery, local oil marketers still do not want the prices to go down. Is that what you are saying?
Chijoke, the Dangote Refinery is a clear testament to establish the fact that we are not seeing any hope from this local processing and production of fuel to the Nigerian market. The Dangote Refinery, to a lot of people and myself, it came to me as a big relief, and I was excited at the completion of that facility. In short, I was going from one television station to the other, advocating for federal government of Nigeria to release crude to Dangote. That Dangote is the messiah of the 21st century to the Nigerian economy. But shocking was when Dangote releases their price templates, hedged by the NNPCL, when they told us that we are going to be buying petrol at about 970 naira. I was shocked. And then after some back and forth, they made us understand the reason why we are buying it. That the crude was sourced from United States and from either Russia or China. And then that is the reason for the price templates, because it was not locally sourced. That particular crude was purchased in dollars. And because of the cost of dollar price, the exchange rate in Nigeria, that was why we are going to buy for 900 and something naira. But they promised that on 15th of October 2024, that the price will drop because the federal government has intervened. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has intervened between the NNPC and Dangote refineries, that crude should be supplied to Dangote. My brother Shijoke in the studio, do you know that days have passed, weeks have passed, over 6 weeks today, that the federal government have been supplying Dangote crude, yet we are buying higher. Now, with the coming of NNPC refineries, we are still paying more. And there are a lot of controversies surrounding that now. And marketers, they are threatening to boycott because of the insincerity of government. Governance does not require rocket science. What you need for you to be a good leader to the people is empathy, transparency, accountability, and bringing up technocrats as advisors. But unfortunately in Nigeria, we are too smart people, too smart government. Some people say jokingly that the reason why we have a lot of Yahoo boys, cyber crime thefts everywhere is because we have a lot of Yahoo people in government. The government of Nigeria are showing us that they are Yahoo. They are now playing with our intelligence. playing with our resources, playing with our system, because this is never what we bargained for. The government is not sincere. And that is why you are seeing this back and forth. And that's why you are seeing that a lot of Nigerians that are ordinarily supposed to be supporting government policies have lost trust in the system. What can we do? First, the government needs to be sincere to the people. We are ready to advocate. We are ready to support the government. We are ready to mobilize Nigerians to contribute their quota. But the only thing we are asking for the federal government of Nigeria, led by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is sincerity, transparency, accountability. If not in all aspects, at least in our oil sector, that will go a long way to affect our national life and development.
Now, still on the issue with the price being a question, is also the fact that this price reduction has been envisioned to bring down the pump price, but the challenge is with the availability of products going into the Yuletide season. Now, traditionally, it almost seems as though only NNPCL stations have the capacity to supply, whilst others depend on the NNPCL to be able to supply them. This usual tradition, do you foresee a breakaway from it? And with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu asking that the Kaduna and Warri refineries also be brought on board, do you think that will be achieved in 2025?
First of all, Nigeria should not be contemplating scarcity of petrol. The reason is because Dangote refineries have the capacity to supply the West Africa states petrol. They have the capacity to supply us. I think there is a politics going on right now. And the politics is that just about some days ago, Dangote promised to reduce their fuel with 20 naira. I saw that on the news. Now, this was coming after the NNPC refinery was activated after a long time of markbound. And right now, there was an issue before that only NNPC will be allowed to get fuel directly from the Dangote refineries. Now that the Dangote refineries is operational and NNPCL is operational, I think there is supposed to be a tripartite meeting to set a unified price. Federal government price should not be different from Dangote price. It will affect the supply. A lot of marketers will prefer to lift their petrol from Dangote from the refinery in Port Harcourt, and that will affect the supply chain. But rather, as a country, because we are partner in progress, after all, NNPC have some shares in Dangote. They can come together. Just that the problem I always have with them is that they do not have the interest of the masses at heart. Otherwise, there shouldn't be any issue whatsoever. Dangote have the capacity to refine more fuel than the NNPC refinery. Now, Dangote I don't know why people will prefer to lift petrol from NNPC. Dangote should be cheaper because Dangote have more sophisticated machines. Dangote have everything to make its price more cheaper than the NNPC in refinery. NNPC refinery in Port Harcourt. So the federal government, the NNPC, and the people in charge of price templates and control should sit with Dangote, sit with the management of NNPC to see that they have a unified price. And that will ensure that supplies can be coming in from the NNPC as well as Dangote refineries. And that we wouldn't be bothering about the threats of boycotting, lifting of petrol from NNPC or from Dangote by these marketers. And concerning the refinery in Kaduna and Warri, federal government, beyond refurbishing this refinery and activating this refinery, after this maintenance, they should privatize it. Our refineries should be privatized. It should be handled by private sector. And that is the only way they can bring about efficiency in production and sustainability to that sector. If it's still being managed by these same people in NNPC, I tell you, they will run it down in a number of days or weeks.
Now, Honorable Desmond, why I asked about this fear of scarcity and projections is because if you do the numbers, let's work with statistics that were being provided by. Now, we're told that in 10 weeks, 251 million liters have been lifted from Dangote refinery. That puts him at an advantage of having more capacity. But now with the coming on board of the Port Harcourt refinery, we're told that it only meets 2.5% of local needs, as only 5.9 million liters are available from Nigerians to benefit from the refinery. Now, and even in doing the econometrics, you see that he has more in terms of what to offer Nigerians, and should he put his as a cheaper price, the NNPC would still be strong-armed into bending towards his price, other than giving Nigerians what the marketers are yearning for, a cheaper price from a federal government refinery. Does these numbers not put the Port Harcourt refinery at a disadvantage?
That was why I said the federal government of Nigeria controls everything. Even when Dangote finished its production the last time, when Dangote was to supply fuel in August or October, it was still NNPC that set the price. Dangote was not fit enough or confident enough. Dangote does not even have the pomposity, audacity to declare that this is the price. It was the federal government that was in charge of Dangote refinery, even to date. I don't know if that is because of their shares in Dangote refineries. I do not see any conflicts. I do not see any fear in those numbers. If there is sincerity, governments have shares in Dangote refinery. And this is Nigeria. Government gives Dangote the leverage. Government gives Dangote all the paperwork, all the enabling environment for them to operate in Nigeria. Therefore, government in one way or the other involved in the management of Dangote refineries. Likewise, the NNPC refinery in Port Harcourt, as well as the Warri refineries and the Cardinal refineries. What we are saying is that they should compromise. They should consider the interest of Dangote, but consider the interest of the Nigerian more in setting up the price. I'm not saying that Port Harcourt refineries should sell, or Dangote NNPC refineries should sell well at 500 or 600. No, they should look at a competitive price that can help the Nigerian people, and government should ensure and enforce, looking at the parameters and looking at the cost of production. They should favor Dangote, favor Port Harcourt refineries, but favor the Nigerian people more. That is what I'm saying. And that can be achieved if they come together and look at the price and be sincere to each other. That is the only solution, sincerity in the management of this production in Nigeria and the marketers and the pump price for the people.
All right, Patriot Desmond, we have dwelled quite a lot on the issue of oil and gas. Let's take a look at another pertinent issue in the news. Today is World AIDS Day, and
on the first of December will be World AIDS Day.
On the 1st of December will be World AIDS Day, and statistics coming in say that Nigeria currently has about 140,000 children living with HIV. Now, most of these children got it through mother-to-child transmission or through childbirth. Nigeria as a whole contributes about 25% to the entire global figure of children living with HIV. How much of a very disturbing figure is this amount? And how do you think we can tackle this issue and stem down the ever-rising case of children living with HIV as the world commemorates World AIDS Day come December 1st?
For my little research about AIDS, HIV, and AIDS, I tell you, Shijoke, that the number one cause of HIV, or the number one factor that contribute to the increase in the percentage of the number of people living with HIV and AIDS across the globe is poverty. Poverty, malnutrition, and poor health facilities have been the major factor responsible for this increase in HIV, people living with HIV in the country. Some years back, Nigeria fought very hard to bring the number down. But right now, with the current economic situation, the number is increasing. And this number that this statistic that you just read out now is a little bit disturbing. Disturbing in the sense that we cannot be talking about HIV in 21st century. That is to tell you that there are some management. There have been lack of complacency. There have been lack of what? Proactiveness and more of complacency by the government, and that is why you are seeing this increase in the number of people living with HIV, especially the children. There shouldn't be a case of mother-to-child transfer of AIDS with the level of technology that have been in the world today. In other climes, the number of children living with HIV has reduced drastically because of the investment made in the what? In the process of what? Childbearing. How can we be talking about transfer of this virus during birth? That is to tell you failure of our health sector. This is really disturbing, and I think we need to call on the appropriate quarters. The National Assembly needs to call on the appropriate quarters to come and explain to Nigeria why Nigeria, not like every other countries of the world, have stopped mother-to-child transfer of this virus.
I agree with you, Honorable Patriot Desmond. I'm talking about what Nigeria can do, especially with the coming on board of technologies where natural birth has now been disadvised so that the children do not have this onward transmission, and the availability to prophylaxis is another major concern. It will shock you that even away from HIV, common vaccines given at birth to children are now not even available in general hospitals. And the private hospitals who offer these services are now charging even 3 times as high. And when I asked why, they said it was owing to the exit of GSK from the country. In line with all these loopholes in our healthcare provision, beyond the National Assembly, do you think that there should be a state of emergency on health and medical services in Nigeria?
Obviously, there should be a state of emergency in our health sector, because let me tell you, you cannot talk about productivity, you cannot talk about growth of GDP, you cannot talk about development, you cannot talk about growth when your health sector is questionable. With these disturbing figures and this disturbing information about access to quality health in Nigeria here and there, and a lot of people cannot even boast or guarantee their survival because of poverty. A lot of people cannot even afford this treatment, even from government-owned institution, health institution. It is a really big mess on our nation, and that tells you more about leadership. You know, there are so many things that is not working, and some of these figures just exposes us to the world as a country that is not responsible and responsive to the needs of the people. Health is very, very important to productivity. If your people are not healthy, yeah, you cannot be talking about economic prosperity. Health is a major factor. You talk about education, you talk about health. There are 2 sectors that will determine the future of a country. The current state of health in Nigeria requires state of emergency. And then when we say state of emergency, a lot of people may not understand what we're talking about. Therefore, more Nigerians need to come on board as a voice against poor health management. And then we need to also, the National Assembly, the Nigerian people, we need to come together for this particular issue. We need to unite our voices to see that we advocate and achieve a quality health delivery, especially to what? To the rural communities especially to the people living in poverty. Government should subsidize treatment to people that are vulnerable or living in vulnerable communities. And that is the only way we can tackle this issue. Let me tell you sincerely, there are a number of people in communities that do not even have access to quality education. The federal government in the successive government made effort to establish primary health sector in every local government and FCD in the federation. But the question is how better equipped these primary health sectors are. Today, vaccines are no longer available, and yet we have senators, we have presidents, we have governors moving about in comfort of billions of naira, where the people they are to govern still lack access to quality health and basic life amenities. Is that not worrisome to you, Chijioke? And that is what it's not just about the National Assembly, like you said, it's about the entire society. We need to rally.
Well, it appears we're having a little bit of a connection problem there with Patriot Desmond.
And there is governance to the people.
It's very important that he has raised such pertinent issues. Well, Patriot Desmond, if you've joined back, you can carry on with your point.
Yes. So we need to ask the right questions. Over time, we have always received aid from the government of other countries. What is our country doing? Let me tell you, it will shock you, sir. The majority of the things you see that by the federal government of Nigeria go to our health sectors. Most of they are not direct investment of the federal government of Nigeria. They came to us as aids
or interventions.
We cannot continue our life this way, my brother.
Yeah.
We cannot continue this way as a country. As a people, we need to ask the right questions. We need to open our eyes. I think the only people, the Nigerian people, are interested in questioning or auditing is the National Assembly, the politicians. We need to begin to audit the health sectors. We need to begin to audit the general hospitals. We need to begin to audit the Ministry of Health. We need to begin to audit the primary health sector management. We need to begin to audit the NHIS and every other persons involved in the management of our health in this country. And that is the only way we can get results.
Well, it's a very pertinent issue, and I'm happy that you have re-echoed part of the urgency with which this issue needs to be tackled. Now in closing, we look at two reports that are just coming into our studios off the back of publications made on the dailies, and is with Nigeria's choices in terms of foreign visas. Now, there are two angles to the story. The first is the UK visa and how much has been spent in 1 year. According to reports as published on the Daily Sun, we're told that Nigerians spent 68 billion naira in 1 year in search of UK visas, despite a high rate of rejections. And on the other hand, now we're told that owing to these developments going into the Yuletide, Nigerians are looking to go on vacations with their family and now prioritizing African countries like Kenya and Morocco, where the visas are not so difficult to get. Let's look at the UK situation and then conclude with the African visa situation in the light of the challenges that Nigerians face.
Vito, yesterday, while I was looking at the internet, I saw that the United Kingdom government newly established in Lagos State the largest visa processing points in Lagos. And something was coming to my mind that the government of United Kingdom is making so much money from the Nigerian people processing data, and they now find it as a more lucrative business. So they needed to expand the business in Lagos by establishing a robust system. That is a national embarrassment. It is an embarrassment to the continent of Africa that Today, almost everybody in Nigeria wants to leave the shore of Nigeria and Africa to Europe. It disturbs me a lot. And yet, the government of Africa, they are not concerned, they are not seeing any danger in that. I tell you sincerely that this poses a lot of danger. This jackpot syndrome is a big mess to us as a country. Jackpot syndrome is a big mess to us as a country, and a lot of people now contemplate leaving this country. In short, there was a statistic that was carried out that the people who are actually contemplating to travel out of Nigeria, that 7 people out of 10 people are contemplating leaving Nigeria to other clients, other countries in Europe. That is a big mess to us as a country. Why not treat our country like Europe? Why not provide the basic amenities? Why not ensure that life is bearable here? Why not ensure that the basic amenities are provided here in Nigeria? Why not contribute to the development of Nigeria? Why not attract more people from London? Why not attract more people from Nottingham, from Wales, from the United Kingdom, from USA, from Australia, from China, down to Nigeria? Why not make Nigeria a better country than Europe? Is it difficult for us to achieve? Today, we are not battling
Desmond,
with jackpot syndrome.
in as much as people like you are making calls and advocating for Nigeria to be made more attractive for foreign investments and for foreigners to come into the country, on one hand, there are people like you, and on the other hand, there are people like the popular Afrobeat musician David Adeleke, who many people have described as someone who is demarcating the country on the international scene over an interview that he had granted, citing that Nigeria is no place whatsoever for investors to come in. With this sort of divide, don't you think there needs to be some sort of better orientation even within Nigerians themselves as to how they portray the country out there, so that we don't continue to have these foreign countries opening up large visa application centers like the one we saw in Lagos, just for the purpose of making money via processing?
You see, I tell you something, there are 2 things that are very important in a man's life, and that is education. You see, sometimes I wouldn't want to join my voice with that of some of these Afrobeat musicians and all that. Some of them, they are wired with use of drugs, use of cannabis and drugs. Some of them are influenced most times by the use of drugs. If you go to all this music scene, you see a lot of them abuse drugs and all that. And we've had a lot of artists that died in this country because of the use of drugs. Look at Davido. Do you know that about 6 people died in his company because of alcohol? Now, let me tell you something. These people are not the benchmark for the average Nigerian youth. Nigeria, as a country of over 240 million people, we have a lot of people doing excellently well in technology, in commerce, doing well in production, doing well in agriculture, doing well as entrepreneurs, doing well in fashion. And these people, they understand the process of the development of this country, and they are contributing their quota. There are some people who have benefited from this country, but yet, instead of paying this country back with good, they are paying this country back with evil. The likes of all these musicians, if not for the Nigerian markets, if not for the people of Nigeria that supported them, before the international community find them attractive, It was actually the Nigerian market that promoted our artists. It is not this international market. A majority of them have not won Grammy because the market is not suitable for their music, is not suitable to the rest of the world. Their music is only suitable to us because the Nigerian people want to be patriotic and promote our home. So I want to call on everybody in Nigeria, especially the people who have made so much wealth from this country, to market Nigeria in a good way. Because we do not have another country like Nigeria. Nigeria is our country. And then nations emerge by deliberate effort of citizens. It is only the responsibility of citizens, conscious effort of the people of the country to create fortune out of the country. A nation cannot just emerge out of country. A nation will emerge from a country where people are ready to father that nation. People are ready to murder that nation. That is when the country can move into a what? A nationhood. Nigeria, as of today, is still battling with being a nation. And that is why we are calling on more people to be patriotic, more people to see Nigeria as their own London, to see Nigeria as their own America, and whatsoever the country, and ensure that the country is the best, even while it does not look like the best.
Now in closing, Patriot Desmond, we have a few minutes to wrap it up. We'll just ask you one final question and then we wrap it up. Now, in light of all this representation we're asking for with better citizens of Nigeria, we also have persons who immigrated and are citizens of the UK. Particularly, another controversial moment is the opposition leader and the leader of the Conservative Party in the UK Parliament, Kemi Badenoch, who has now also hinted that she would impose stricter immigration laws to restrict more immigration into the UK, citing the fact that their population growth is worrying amidst lean resources. A lot of Nigerians took to social media to express their displeasure, saying that she benefited from immigration, and now why is she seemingly closing the door behind her against other Nigerians wishing for a life like the one she now enjoys? Let's get your thoughts on that as we close.
Why the UK government have issued a strong statement that they are going to put in stringent measures for immigrants, especially from Africa and Nigeria. I'll also call on the UK government to also put in stringent measures from people from the Europe, from America, that is exploiting the wealth of Africa. Do not only place stringent measures against the people, also put in stringent measures against the exploitative tendencies of this UK government from Africa soil, from French government, from African soil, from American, from Turkey, from every countries of the world. Most developed countries in Europe, they actually exploit from before independence, even during independence of this African nation. They are still involved in what they call neo-colonialism, where they are on daily basis exploiting our gold, our lithium, our bitumen, our oil, our iron. If you go to our sea, United Kingdom, and all these foreign countries, their ships are bettered on our waters, exploiting us, taking our natural resources, our fishes, down to their country. They have not given us stringent measures on this. They are talking about giving stringent measures on the movement of human beings. That is double standard for me. For me, it is a double standard that somebody somewhere in Europe is now issuing this embarrassing statement against the African people. It is not their fault. It is the fault of the African people and the Nigerian people that have found solace in this country. Why not come back home? Let's make Nigeria and Africa enviable to these countries by developing this country. Nigeria and Africa have the best landscape, the best tropical, the best environmental condition, the best weather condition, but yet, because of bad leadership, selfish governments, that a lot of people now find solace in these countries. Otherwise, Africa should be the heaven of this world. So I'm calling on everybody moving to UK and other countries to come back home. Let's develop Africa. Let the Europe, let the British beg us for our visa.
Well, Patriot Desmond, we must thank you so much. Quite strong, pertinent, and important calls you have made there for Nigerians to ensure that they come back, develop Nigeria, grow Nigeria, and better Africa in general. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bito. Thank you so much, Shijuke, for having me this morning.